right. Good afternoon again. My name is Katie Auney. I'm the Assistant Dean for External Relations for Philip Merrill College of Journalism. Welcome everyone to our session on social media for professionals as part of the University of Maryland Alumni Association Career Week. I hope you are taking advantage of a number of the different programs that are available throughout the week. So I am just going to take a minute here for a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, we are recording this, so just be aware of that, and we will have it up on our YouTube channel after the session has completed. If you do have questions throughout the program, we encourage you to put those in the Q&A. You can see the button at the bottom of your screen, and Alex will be taking a look at those throughout the program and getting to those throughout. So now I would like to introduce our speaker. Alex Piles is the audience editor for our Capital News Service, which for those of you who aren't familiar, it's essentially a newsroom that operates out of Philip Merrill College that serves as a capstone for a lot of our students. Alex is a lecturer at the college and he helps student journalists use metrics, social media, and other digital storytelling tools to maximize the audience for projects published by CNS and by our Howard Center for Investigative Journalism. He teaches courses on interactive design and social media strategy. He's been on our full-time faculty since 2019. And prior to that, he was a reporter and editor for several news organizations, most recently an editor at the Baltimore Sun, where he managed coverage of the Maryland State House, Baltimore City Hall, and elections. So now it is my pleasure to turn things over to Alex.
Thank you, Katie, and welcome everyone. Thank you for attending this session. I'm going to share my screen and I have a little presentation that I'll do with you all. I want to say now that if you want me to stop, slow down, elaborate, clarify, just go ahead and interrupt me. Either put something in the chat or speak up. That's fine if you can do that. We'll have time at the end for Q&A. So if you just have sort of general questions that you want to ask, I'm happy to tackle those then. But please don't hesitate to ask if you have questions. So I'm going to start this presentation here. And again, just let me know if I'm going too fast or you want me to go over something again. So as Katie mentioned, I'm a faculty member at the College of Journalism. So when I use social media, I use it really the way that anyone else does as a professional. I use it as a storyteller. I use it specifically for journalism, but journalism, at least part of it, is telling stories. So I'm going to try to keep the focus of this discussion today on effective storytelling on social media and effective community building on social media, which really are the same regardless of who you are, whether you're a communications professional, a journalist, a fabric artist, someone who, or a brewer. I'm going to show you a couple of different examples here today of folks who do a good job of leveraging social to build community and create good content. The first thing I want to say before we really get going is that we need to understand what social media is about. And I assume that most of you are social media users, and that's why you're here, you're interested in it. But if you haven't thought about this before, social media is really all about creating an emotional reaction in an audience, right? So when I'm on my phone 1 million hours a day, scrolling through various social media feeds, I'm doing that because I want to be entertained, or sometimes because I want to be informed, right? I'm looking for news, I'm a journalist. But the folks who, especially the folks who are looking to be entertained, which is what most people use social media for, what gets them to stop is the content that they're able to have an emotional reaction to. And there's a couple of different ways that we can create that emotional reaction through the community that we build and the content that we post. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that we can do without getting into specific, you should post this, you should post this. I'm going to give you an idea and show you some examples of folks who don't have the largest platforms or the largest accounts on these social platforms. We're not going to look at celebrity accounts or anything like that, because that's unfair. They play by different rules. I'm talking about people who have small businesses, who have built large online followings by following a couple of different strategies and rules. All right. So the first part of this presentation today is going to be all about tips for all social media networks. So whether you're using Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever your network of choice is, these rules pretty much apply regardless, right? What I tell my students at Maryland, and I've told them for years, is it's more important to sort of understand the social community building and content creation nature of social media as a whole, and then apply those to the language that specific new platforms are speaking. That's more important than being an expert on the individual platforms, right? If you have sort of the broad idea of what social media is and what good content is, usually those can be applied with some changes to each platform. But so these are some just sort of general rules, and I've got some screenshots here to show you. So this is an Instagram account. A lot of the examples I'll show here are Instagram, and then we're going to talk more about Instagram later, much more specifically. And I'll talk about why I'm so focused on Instagram right now. This is an account that is run by another professor at the University of Maryland, Jen Golbeck, who is an absolute social media expert, superstar researcher in the College of Information Science. So the first point that I want to make here, and that Jen's account is helping me to make, is that regardless of the social media network, you as a user want to create and establish a really clear identity, which means telling your followers or potential followers what they're going to get from your profile or from your account. What are your posts going to say? So Dr. Goldbeck makes this really clear here, right? What are we going to get? We're going to get Jen running with dogs, right? We have her name, ultra running, so that's distances longer than a marathon. So lots of running going on here. Golden retrievers in the Florida Keys, trying to run every road in the Keys. This is an older account, but in her profile here, she has taken the time to really clearly lay out what you can expect from her on this page. There's a couple of different, there's a couple of things here that we're going to see throughout these examples. This is a fabric artist that has an account. She's located in Charleston, South Carolina. It's called Sunwoven. And it's very clear when you go to her profile page exactly what you're going to get. Handwoven textiles and interiors, you know where she is. She's a business, she's a creator, she's someone who's trying to sell this stuff to create a customer base. And she also provides another way to get in touch with her. Her work is, a lot of it is custom work. So she wants to make sure that you're it's very easy to get in touch with her. And you're seeing this more and more with folks who are doing this kind of work. Makers, right? There's a guy in Baltimore who I found on Instagram who just made a beautiful bench for my living room. And I found them by looking for local furniture makers in the city. So this is another, and you see that following 123,000. This is still a relatively small company and person running it, but they've built a really clear identity on the network and share really beautiful pictures so that folks are interested in what they are sharing. Here's another Baltimore company who I happen to know a couple of the people who run it. It's called Believe in the Run, unintentional pun there. And it's a website and social media network and podcast, and they're on Instagram, Twitter, they have a YouTube channel. They set up races in the area. Largely what this particular account is doing, though, is exactly what it tells you. It is providing shoe reviews, gear reviews, all of the things running. They take their own photos, and then they want you to follow the running group that they created in Baltimore City, right? Almost 53,000 followers for a national company that is based in Baltimore, really just run by two people, and they have a couple of folks around the country doing reviews for them. Very large following, and you only get that if you have a really clear identity, are very clear about what you are, what you're selling, what you're trying to communicate with people, and you do it consistently and clearly. Oop, I'm sorry about that. Didn't mean to click. Here's another Baltimore company. And you see there's a trend here, and I'll talk about this here in a minute. I'm showing you a lot of profile pictures and the profile pages. And I'm doing that because profiles, if you don't have an accurately filled out profile on all of your social media networks, so again, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and if it's not consistently filled out with some of the same information, you're really doing yourself a disservice. So here's Monument City Brewing in Baltimore. And it doesn't hurt if you have a mission statement, if you're a small business, to use that mission statement in your profile, right? This is the other thing that doesn't help, that doesn't hurt, right? Having really good content. And I'll talk a little bit more about what makes really good content. But I think if you're looking at this screen, you understand what is good about this content, right? Now, maybe you don't drink beer, but when I look at these pictures, I don't necessarily see that. Yes, I see their very nice, well photographed, well lit product, right? But I also see a really comfortable sweater. I see a really relaxing, looks like a back porch. I look at this, and they're selling me not just what their product is, their drink. They're selling me relaxation. They're selling me, sort of like a ruggedness. It feels very authentic, and it feels like something that I want to be involved in, right? Here's another example. This is a concrete company, right? This is a decorative concrete company. And the guy who works for this is a big Instagram user. He doesn't run this account, but his rule for the person who runs this account, Hyde Concrete out of Anne Arundel County in Maryland, his rule for this account is there needs to be always these really beautiful pictures of our work. Because if not, then what are we really giving people, right? They've established a clear identity. They've marketed themselves as this high-end decorative concrete firm. Your Instagram account, yeah, okay, it can have these little group pictures of you and your staff, at a team building exercise, socially distanced in times of COVID, celebrating an award, right? That's fine. But if you're trying to build a community or build a customer base, you need to show the people what it is you really want to be known for. So this page is constantly filled with really well-lit, well-taken pictures and sometimes video of the work that this decorative concrete company has done. All right. Here's another that I actually just saw this morning, and I threw it into the presentation because I saw it on the local news in Baltimore. This is a bake shop, and it's just another example of really clear branding in the profile, followed up with really consistent and clear content posted on the page, right? This is a bake shop. What do I want to see? I want to see baked goods. That's what I want. That all looks delicious. I want everything on this page. They've succeeded in earning me as a potential customer, right? So all of that relates to this second point that I want to make. So part of your identity is using your profile really, really effectively and really using it clearly. So Justin Fenton is a Maryland alum and a crime reporter for the Baltimore Sun in Baltimore. He's also writing a book about a horribly corrupt police force in Baltimore City that was stealing money and drugs from drug dealers and framing them for crimes and framing other residents for crimes. It's called the Gun Trace Task Force. So Justin Fenton has certainly for Baltimore, and for certainly a journalist of sort of regional acclaim, an enormous Twitter following. 85,000 followers. That's a very large number. And here's another thing. Here's a thing that you can always look at when you are trying to evaluate the quality of another social account. Look at how many they're following and look at how many are following them. If these numbers were closer to equal, if you have 85,000 followers, you have 85,000 followers. That's good. But if these numbers were closer to equal, you'd sort of wonder who's getting more from this deal, right? And if this number were 85,000 and the followers were 2,000, then that's also an indication that there's not a whole lot of value being offered here. When you have that many follows, you would expect at least that many follow backs. But Justin, although I don't agree with one decision that he's made here, though I understand why he's made it, his profile picture is this Baltimore Sun Guild icon. I mentioned he's a reporter for the Baltimore Sun. This was up during contract negotiations, union contract negotiations, so I understand this was a solidarity thing with his fellow reporters. I think that's good and fine and great. Ordinarily, though, I'd love for that profile picture to be something that's really recognizable and consistent across his social platforms, right? And that's a point that I'll make maybe in the next slide, that consistency is really important. Everything else here, though, is very good. Justin provides a way to get in touch with him, and he uses really important keywords in his profile, and I'll show the importance of keywords here in a minute as well. Crime reporter. Just the word crime is really important. If you want people to be able to find you using search, you need to use this profile as a tool for that. So crime is very important. Baltimore, the geographic location, where you are, where you are doing this work is very important. Tagging Random House is good. Random House, I know what Random House is. I know that's a large publisher. That tells me something about Justin's credibility right there off the bat. I don't think Random House is signing no names to book contracts, right? So that tells me a whole lot right there. And then he's providing a link to be able to order his book, because while mostly what this account is him sharing his journalism, sharing his work, he's also right now trying to sell a book, right? And he's trying to provide access to that book to make it really easy. I mentioned consistency, and I would be a really bad teacher if I didn't take this opportunity with wonderful alumni on this call to not brag about students. So this is Capital News Service, and these are some of the social media accounts that students at the University of Maryland, Philip Merrill College of Journalism devise a strategy for, create community for, create posts for. And you'll notice that the brand identity across these platforms is identical, right? We've got the same logo as our profile picture for every single network. You want that because you want to create that, that consistency across your website, across your social platforms, even if it's not the exact same logo, if it's a modification, using the same kind of type, using the same kinds of color. All of those things can help create a really cohesive and consistent internet presence, which is really important. Especially if you're someone who's really trying to market yourself very clearly to a particular audience, you want to have a really clear presentation, really across all of your online properties. All right. Let's see here. I'm just going to take a look at the chat here. 1 sec. All right, thanks. Katie, if you're still on, it looks like I'm not able to actually pull up the Q&A. So I guess I can look at that at the end.
Oh, sorry about that. There is one question. Somebody is asking if you could clarify about the ratio of followers. Should we try to have an equal number of followers as following? Which I think I know the answer to that, but if you want to clarify that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. You're right. I was not very clear in that part. So my point there was, if you look at an account that is following 85,000 people and they've only got 2,000 followers themselves, that means a couple of different things. Because when you follow someone, not always, but often, there'll be a reciprocal follow, right? So if I've followed 85,000 accounts and only 2,000 have followed me, that tells me a couple of different things. Either none of those accounts are interested in what I'm doing, and you're not really part of any kind of a community on a social network, which is really what you want. Um, it sometimes can indicate a fake account, right? Because what these fake accounts tend to do, now that we're a little bit more savvy as internet users, what they tend to do is create multiple fake accounts and have them all follow each other. So if you've got an equal number of followers as people that you, as users that you follow, that's sometimes an indication that that's actually a fake account. But generally speaking, the idea is you want to have more followers than you follow. You want to have a really curated list of who you're following and who's showing up in your feed on these social networks. I'm jumping ahead in the presentation a little bit here, but you want to think about when you're following folks, who you want your audience to be, who your audience is, who you're trying to reach. And the answer is not everyone, right? So if you're following 85,000 and you've got 2,000 people following you back, that tells me that you're probably trying to work outside of the audience that you're actually interested in or catering to with your content. I hope that answers the question. If not, ask me again. Let me just back up here just to remind myself where we were. All right, so be consistent. The next thing that I want to suggest to sort of help ensure some of that consistency is to Google yourself, right? We're talking about social media, but we're also just talking about the internet, right? And one thing that you should do when you're building your internet brand, of which social media is a huge part, right, is Google yourself and make sure that at the top of Google, you're known for what you want to be known for. So here's this Believe in the Run company that I showed you a couple of slides ago. And I would say that they should be pretty happy with what happens when they Google themselves. We get a link to their to their main website. We get sublinks to all these pages on their website. And then we get videos that are coming from YouTube, I think, that are reviews and the content that they're creating. So Believe in the Run should be very happy with how they appear on Google. They obviously have taken some time to really curate and make sure that their internet presence is what they want it to be. Side note, if you Google me, I'm not happy at all with how mine looks. And there's a reason for that. There is a writer named Alexander Piles. He's about my age. And I think he writes, it's been a while since I've looked at him, but I think he writes like fantasy novels and like creative writing. That is not what journalism is. But when you Google my name, you get mostly pictures of me, mostly links to work that I've done or profiles of me on, the Baltimore Sun's website and the University of Maryland website, but also some of this other Alex Piles's work. So I'm not super happy with my Google presence. Maybe one day I'll do more to fix that. President Pines, the fearless leader of the University of Maryland, should be very happy with his Google presence, right? Now, I'm not going to suggest that Dr. Pines isn't a celebrity, but he's a famous person in the world, right? Outside of Maryland, in wider, broader circles, folks probably don't know who Dr. Pines is. But if you Google his name, he should be very happy with what shows up here. First, his presidential page on the University of Maryland website, and I'm certain that the folks who are responsible for SEO at the university were very sure to make sure that was a top result. That's good. His faculty page in the Department of Aerospace Engineering probably is a celebrity in that field. The next thing that we see is earned media, right? A news story by the Baltimore Sun about Darrell Pines after he was selected as the next president of the University of Maryland. And then the Wikipedia page, which we all know is not a great source of final information, but is a place where, let's face it, a large percentage of the internet is going to go to learn about you before potentially researching a little bit deeper. We also have this Google section over here, recognizing Dr. Pines is a person of some import, right? So Dr. Pines should be very happy with what his Google page looks like. Not only should you Google yourself, but Google what it is you think you want to be known for or should be known for, or what kind of content are you creating? What communities do you really want to be a part of? Google that topic and just see where you show up. So I Googled a couple of different things with Justin Fenton, the Baltimore Sun crime reporter. And I Googled Baltimore crime Twitter. Because for me, maybe not everyone does this, but if I go to a new place and I want to know, breaking news that's happening in that area, Twitter is a great social media network to find out about breaking news. So I might immediately start looking for good reporters on that platform. And Google still has the best search engine of, any better than any of the native social media network search engines. I might go here and type something like Baltimore crime Twitter, hopefully looking for information about Baltimore crime on that platform. And if I'm Justin, I'm very happy with this result. Baltimore police is the first result, and then Justin is the second. All right. One of the reasons for that is because his profile so clearly stated that he was a crime reporter in Baltimore within the first couple of words. That's one of the reasons why this shows up here. Another reason that it shows up is that he has a verified account. And another reason it shows up is that he has a very large following, right? 85,000 is large enough to get Google's attention. But without those keywords in his profile, he won't show up. If you Google Baltimore crime or Baltimore crime reporter, Justin also shows up in the first page of Google results within the first 5. And really, if you're not within the first 5, you're losing a lot of your search audience at that point. So you really want to be within the first couple of links posted on a Google search engine results page. Justin does that, so he should be very happy. All right, here's another tip and a timely one. Across social platforms, identify the trends, but do so really early. So even if you have not paid not paid attention to social media at all for the last week, if you just turned on your television, you know about the Bernie Sanders photo and you know about the Bernie Sanders memes, because one day last week, it was a story on the CBS Morning News. News stations were doing stories about how Senator Sanders had become this social media meme. I got to tell you, the first time I saw it, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was really funny, and it was the kind of thing where it just made me love the internet, right? The internet finds a weird picture, a funny picture, and just creates all of these graphics that can make me laugh. Saturday, I was kind of getting over it, and I was definitely over it by Monday. Maybe you weren't. Maybe you still think these are all hilarious. And I'm not saying that one of these Sanders memes couldn't pop up tomorrow that's really creative, really funny, makes me laugh, and I'm like, all right, this thing still has shelf life. But what I don't need is for the third restaurant in my neighborhood 4 days after the inauguration to post another one of these Sanders memes. It sort of just screams, yeah, you're sort of paying attention, but you didn't really recognize the trend and the moment has kind of passed, and look, all of your competitors beat you by 36 hours. It's not a good look. Identifying trends and doing so really early lets you at least make the decision about whether or not you want to be part of this this meme, this particular meme, or this particular hashtag, or whatever it is that you're following, right? So I think I'm done with the Sanders memes, but maybe you're not. Also, just because I am a journalist, and if you don't know, I don't know if you'll hear it anywhere else. The photographer of that Sanders photo is a gentleman by the name of, I don't know how to pronounce his name, so if you know him, correct me. Brendan Smile. Think about having a creative work like that shared all over the internet by hundreds, thousands, millions of people, and no one knowing that you're the one who took it. So I just thought I'd put that credit there. All right, some more tips. I'm just going to go through these kind of rapid fire, and then I want to talk in more detail, more specific detail about Instagram, and then I'll take all the rest of the questions that you have. So a big tip is to pick a topic, or maybe one or two that you really want to be known for, and then lurk your competitors. So I'm a journalist. I once covered politics, right, for a couple of different newspapers in Maryland. And one of the first things that I did was follow all of my competitors, watch what they posted, and then watch to see who retweeted them, who liked them. It was all Twitter then, when I first started. Later on, checking who's commenting on their Instagram posts or their Facebook pages. The people who are in your competitors' comments, especially if it's a larger competitor, an older competitor, these are the people who are your potential audience, right? These are the folks who are engaged in the topic, who you want to start engaging with. So if they're commenting on your competitor's post or liking your competitor's post, maybe you can get yourself into that conversation somehow in the comment section, or maybe you can ask them a question and tag them in your own post. Don't be a creep. You don't want to go to your competitor's page, whether you're selling shoes or trying to cover the Maryland General Assembly, and comment on all of their followers' responses and be really clear about the fact that you're trying to steal away some audience or grab some of their audience. You have to be a little subtle about it. And there's not like a magic number or anything like that. It's all about feel. But just remember that the folks who are interacting with your competitors are the folks who are potentially going to want to interact with you. And then it's up to you to create better content than your competitor. Ask questions. Use social media to ask questions, again, regardless of platform. Justin Fenton, the reporter who I mentioned a couple of times now, something that he frequently does is call out to his followers for information about a geographic area of the city, or about an incident that's happening live that he's not quite at. Now, he has a large following. He's built a lot of trust and a lot of community over the years, so he gets a lot of responses. You may not right away if you have a smaller following, but asking questions and including the community in your content creation or in your in whatever brand you're trying to build is going to build a lot of trust and make it much easier for you to ultimately have your content seen. And asking questions makes your content better too. Answering questions as well is just as important. Again, when I was a political reporter, it didn't happen right away, but after a couple of years, or not a couple of years, but maybe like a year and a half, one issue that I covered really extensively was the Maryland gambling industry. And I started getting questions from people who were interested in the Maryland gambling industry and casinos and slot machines and when they could play blackjack in Baltimore and all things like that. And when you get those questions, you want to answer them, because these are the folks who have shown an interest in your work, in your content. And these are the people who are more likely to share your content and thus expand your audience, right? So ask and answer questions. Experiment and be an early adopter. If you don't have a TikTok account, sign up for one. You don't have to, right away start pumping out 15-second videos. But you could lurk for a little while, using that lurk word here again. You can lurk on the social media network for a little while and just sort of understand how it's used, and get to the point where you're like, okay, I have an idea for how I could create content for this platform. I'm going to skip down to the last item and then come back. Speak the language of the platform. That's really important. So all of these tips I've given so far are really specific, or are not so specific. They're broad. But each platform has its own language. There's different hashtags potentially. There's different uses of emojis. There's different phrases that could be used in copy, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or whatever. Understand how users are talking to each other on those platforms before you start posting, right? You don't want to sound foreign in the platform. And then lastly, be consistent, right? If you're going to launch an account, and you're going to start posting and trying to build community, you really have to keep up with it. Depending on your goals, once a day may be enough. But if you really want to grow, you have to be thinking about multiple posts a day, 3 to 5 on a lot of different networks. And it does depend, it varies slightly depending on the platform. All right, so I already talked about this. I'm going to breeze through it. Who's your target audience? It's not everyone. Find the platform that's going to work best for you based on who you want to reach. And I want to talk a little bit now about Instagram, and I might go a little fast here because I want to make sure I allow some time for you to ask any other questions that you have. But I'm a big fan of Instagram, and there's a couple of reasons for that. You can do everything that you want on social media with this platform right now. With the addition of Reels to Instagram, they have at least put their toe into the market that TikTok had really become famous for in the last couple of years. These short videos with text and music and dancing and telling stories in really a very unique, really fun way. Now, maybe we don't have any TikTok users here. It is a still hugely popular social media platform, especially for the under 18 crowd. And you know what the under 18 crowd is going to do? They're going to turn into the 19 to 31 crowd, and they're going to turn into the 30 to 45 crowd. Not overnight, right? But assuming TikTok continues its growth, and I think there's some question about that, given the market saturation already of Instagram, and them taking some of the capabilities that made TikTok special. Assuming though that growth continues in some way and they're able to keep their cash flow all right, it could be a very popular network in a couple of years, right? It's something like 12% of the United States adult population that's on it right now. But again, there's more 18-year-olds every single day. So that number is going to grow. I think it was the first or second most downloaded app of 2020. So it's not there yet, but be an early adopter and experiment. Instagram also, of course, has stories. Some people don't even know that Instagram stole stories from Snapchat, another platform that was mostly used by a younger crowd that is not doing as well now. And then also pictures, right? Instagram was built on these photo posts, which, let's face it, was the best part of Facebook. One of the reasons why Facebook bought Instagram. Helped them expand, get larger, right? But Facebook did it because they saw the threat there. Let's talk about the Instagram audience real quick and why I think it's worth your time. So right now, only 40% of US adults use the network, but that number is it's growing. It's still growing, it's still going up. But you see it still pales in comparison to the two largest social media networks. 74% for YouTube, which some people don't even think of as a social media network, but it is. There's content creators there who are really just using it as a professional portfolio or a way to entertain and show off their creations. And then Facebook is just, if you think of what a traditional social media network is, 68% is just the lion's share of that. Twitter 25, LinkedIn 25, all of this data is updated through the end of 2020 in a new report from the Pew Research Center, which does an analysis of news use across social media platforms yearly. And I just took the overall US adults using platforms number from that report. Here's a little bit more about the Instagram audience from Sprout Social. I'll make these slides available so you can look at these in more detail if you want after the presentation. But you see, it's another platform that's definitely skewing younger, but half of 30 to 49 years old is nothing to sneeze at. Just a couple of different examples of the kind of content that you can create on Instagram. That's a lot of fun. Here's something that I would put into the more advanced category, but not terribly difficult. It can be done with a tripod or just one extra person holding the phone as a camera. and creating reels. This is again that that Run group in Baltimore. Not sure if you can hear my music or not, but that's just kind of fun. You know, it's like 15 seconds long. The kind of thing that you would see on TikTok. Now it's available on Instagram. Again, requires a little creativity, requires a little bit of expertise, right? Not too much though. Stories are very different, right? Stories you can certainly be that creative. You can certainly show off some creative expertise, but it does not have to be such an undertaking, right? So these are two, one journalist that I worked with a long time ago, one who's still working in Baltimore, speaking to their audiences. So Lisa is a former journalist who is now an entrepreneur who is doing a whole lot of consulting, and she also does improv comedy, and she uses her story really to update her followers, her audience on her entrepreneurial ideas and her progress as a businesswoman. Pam Wood for the Baltimore Sun is a political reporter. She's got kind of a wonky post here, but her followers are really wonky, right? This is Pam taking a screenshot, you know, nothing more than holding her phone up to the screen, hitting the shutter button, just taking a quick picture to show that she's noticing that all of these other folks are waiting in line to listen to this Budget and Taxation Committee session in Annapolis, right? Not too many people are doing that, 21, right? Not a huge number, but she knows her followers are interested in this stuff. They're really into the nuts and bolts. Some of them are probably among those 21. And then she's got hundreds more not among that 21 who would probably be logged in if Pam wasn't giving them updates or if they didn't have something better to do at that moment. So the story really doesn't have to be terribly complicated. You don't always have to have super high quality images. So like this Believe in the Run reel, this is pretty high quality. This is pretty neat and fun. It made me stop scrolling. I really liked it. These are much more simple, but they still communicate information to the audience that each user is wanting to communicate with. I show it just because I want to make really clear that you can spend a whole lot of time, or you can spend a little bit less time and still have some benefit from creating your content. Right, better content's always better. Higher quality photos and videos always better, but it doesn't always have to be perfect. Here's something that surprised me when I first became an Instagram user, and another alum of the University of Maryland actually disabused me of the notion that I had about the platform. I was having a conversation with him, and he was teaching a photography class at the university. And I said, yeah, you know, when I post things on Instagram, I really just, you know, I post the picture or I create the graphic, not so much the graphic, but I post the picture, and then I just try to stay out of the way, right? I was thinking like a sports broadcaster, right? Sports broadcasters, the good ones, always say that you really don't want to step on the moment by talking over the crowd cheering or the crack of the bat or whatever it is. I don't want to step on the photograph by, excuse me, my dog is barking in the background and he's really distracting me as I'm trying to talk through this. So work from home. The photo, I want to speak for itself. I don't want to write lots and lots and lots of caption and sort of get in the way of users' ability to understand and appreciate the post that I'm creating. Hopefully I got through that. I'm wrong about that. Maybe I wasn't then, because I probably said that in 2016 or 2017. But now, certainly, Instagram caption length is an asset when you are a creator trying to post on this network. According to this data from later, and it's backed up by other studies as well, engagement on an Instagram post increases with the caption length. So there is a certain point where it can be too much, but you see here at 1,000 characters, so what's that, like 80 words maybe? Engagement in 2019, and they didn't have 2020 data yet, engagement in 2019 was almost 6%, which is up, from the lower levels here. So what you end up seeing are posts like this, right? So this is the Barks Animal Shelter in Baltimore, and they do a lot of these posts with their beautiful dogs. It's where I found my dog who's barking his head off in the background, and they will write long descriptions or long stories in their captions, and then sometimes even go further and make the first comment a continuation of that story. News organizations do that as well. If you follow the Washington Post on Instagram, which is sort of one of the fastest growing mainstream media, social media networks, Post is quite good on social. It's because they have a really concerted strategy on each platform. The Post does this really often as well. They have one editor who takes Instagram as his responsibility above all. And when he posts, he is often posting on the Washington Post account and then on his own personal account, jumping in and adding to the story as the first commenter, right? So while it may seem counterintuitive, you can have a whole lot of success by having longer captions on Instagram, along with beautiful photos. All right, so longer captions can be a pain, and it can also sometimes be a pain to take a photo, edit it, and make it really good, to put it on a platform that's really going to put your photos or graphics in a spotlight, right? And one thing that I hear from folks sometimes is, even though something like 90% of social media platform traffic is all on mobile, I do hear from creators from time to time that it's frustrating to have to do all of that from their phone. Some people don't mind, right? There is a workaround. So I'm going to share this little trick with you that hopefully you haven't seen before. And if you have, then don't give away the secret. So here's my Instagram account. And I'm using Google Chrome. There's a way to do this with another browser. But if you use Google Chrome and you right click and go to inspect, it gives you this little fly out window here, which really is a tool for developers to identify certain parts of code that back up the website. But because developers have to think about how a website is going to display based on a user's screen size, this developer tool has a little device button here. So it's unclicked now, but now I click it, I toggle the device toolbar, and I go to this toolbar here up top, and I am able to pick a different screen size, and I can pick a mobile screen size, right? Once I do that, if I just refresh the page, I have now tricked Instagram, which does not let you ordinarily post photos from your desktop. I've now tricked Instagram into thinking I'm on a mobile device, and I can go to my desktop, grab a picture of my horrible dog, move it, crop it the way I like. His name is Loki. Add a couple of hashtags. And share. All right. And I have now posted to my Instagram account from my desktop, not having to do any of the work on my phone. Little workaround in case you ever want to try that. I think that is the end. Oh, one more thing. This is real quick. I'll just talk through it as this video plays. If you are going to use Instagram for business purposes or for creative purposes, your default is that you're just going to have a regular private account. I recommend, right? But if you go to your account settings and then switch to a professional account, then you can get a little more a little more capabilities, especially when it comes to analytics, right? And analytics are just, and metrics, digital user metrics, just so important for really evaluating the quality of your social media presence. You really want to know, I'm going to select creator here because it fits better what I'm trying to do. It's for content producers, artists, influencers, things like that. I get this little insights button on my profile then, and I can look in more detail at where my audience is coming from, what they're interacting with, how much it has grown or decreased over the last 7 days or over the last 30 days. And I can also download some of this data and manipulate it in a spreadsheet if I want. All right. So recommend a professional account if for no other reason. There are other benefits as well. If for no other reason than increased insights, analytics capabilities. Right. And I think now that's that. So these slides are available at this address that I think I can pop into that. And I also will be happy to take whatever questions that you have. Thanks for joining me on a mid-afternoon on the East Coast and lunchtime for those of you out west.
Yep, so it does look like we've got a couple questions here. First of all, William, we will be sending a link around to the recording and it will be up on the Merrill College YouTube channel probably by tomorrow morning. So that will be available. And then you'll see Alex just put in the chat there as well, a link to the PowerPoint slides. So for anyone who wants to take another look at it. And we've got a good question here from Bryn. Alex, could you talk a little bit about hashtags? You know, what those are used for, how to use those properly. I think that's something that a lot of us on social media sort of wonder about sometimes, if you're using the right hashtag and if you're using too many or not enough.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's going to depend slightly on the social network that you're using. So let me start with that. If we're talking about Facebook or Twitter, you really probably only want to just use one hashtag. And if you're using a hashtag, since you're only going to use one on your post, first of all, absolutely use it, right? Absolutely use them if they are relevant and they will help tap you into a community that already exists in that space. But if you're using Facebook or Twitter with such limited character counts on really both platforms, you really only want to use one, maybe two hashtags. And what you need to do there is figure out what the what's trending the most, what's getting the most traffic. We don't have the time to do this right this second, but through Twitter, you have the ability to do a search of your geographic area and also just broadly to see what the most trending hashtags are. So worldwide in the United States, I think even down to the state level in the United States, or the city level even, I think I did it for Washington during the election. You can find out what the most trending hashtags are, like the top 20. And if you can fit your work into one of those trending hashtags, then that's great, right? You have a built-in community there. If not, you just want to use something that is really well established with your community. So, you know, again, I'm a journalist, so I'm going to think about the most recent example I had. On the day that the inauguration was happening in Washington, there was one hashtag that was trending above all others on Twitter, and that's what I advise reporters to use, because it said it was like inauguration 2021 or something like that. It wasn't special, but it was trending. So I wanted to make sure that our work, our content was integrating with that particular hashtag. On a platform like Instagram, and then I'll move on, you should use many more hashtags, right? Instagram is their search, that platform search is set up really with hashtags in mind. So you really want to use hashtags liberally. I say 5 to 10 on a post on Instagram, because it's going to make your content much more findable. And that's really the only point of a hashtag, right? If we're getting down to it, it's, you know, you often see them used for comedic purposes or something like that, but a good hashtag makes your post more findable. So definitely use them, but I would take the time to figure out what's actually trending, what's actually useful. Katie, I have a question in the chat from Sharon that I'm going to take real quick, and then I think I can access the Q&As after that. It looks like that button's working for me now.
Wonderful.
So thanks. So Sharon asked, any other social media management platforms like Hootsuite and Later that you recommend? I really like Sprout Social, and above each side of just their management abilities, I like Sprout Social's website. They have lots of really useful how-to articles that I use with my students all of the time. One of which is something that I recommend to you if you're a content creator on any social platform, either for yourself or for your company. Absolutely recommend Sprout Social's always up-to-date social media image sizes. Images, whether they're photographs or just graphics on social media, should be optimized at the size that social media networks prescribe. If not, then as someone's scrolling through their feed, they're not going to see your whole photo. They're not going to see your whole graphic. That's really a problem if they can't see your entire graphic. Sprout Social is one that I like, and I would certainly recommend that. I have some experience also with some others like Meltwater, which is like an analytics, social media analytics company. Also Cision, which is another social media analytics company. It just sort of depends on what your needs are and how many accounts that you want it to follow. Karen asks about, I think, Instagram accounts for professional service firms. What specifically, Karen, if you're able to elaborate, let me know specifically either in the chat or here. What specifically you mean. So certainly for businesses, it's useful, but what particularly for professional services? And then there's another question about how Instagram can be useful for academic professionals who want to engage with other researchers. So hashtags, I think, I don't know of any large, there certainly are research communities on Instagram. I'm not personally part of any of them, so I can't say, oh, you should follow this hashtag. I'm not going to make something up. But that's what the first thing that I would do. I would start looking for research related hashtags on Instagram and see what others are posting. Start using those hashtags on your posts and see what's effective, and just try to learn the language that researchers are speaking on the platform, and then become part of the community that way. Let's see. Okay, Chris. Hi, Chris Harvey. So Chris asked a question about what tips I have for bumping up content on Google so it appears high in search. So yeah, search and social are sort of like the two halves of a good internet experience, right? Or a good internet marketing strategy, or whatever you want to call it. Social is all about that emotional reaction, like I said at the beginning of the presentation. Search is about helping people find information that they want, that they're looking for specifically. So if you want your content to appear high in Google within the first 3 or 4 posts, you have to have a really strong understanding of search engine optimization practices, which sort of, there's a range, right? So as a writer, if you're writing headlines, you want to make sure that you're using highly relevant keywords in your headlines or your page titles, right? You also want to make sure you're using those highly relevant keywords early in your story or in your copy, your informational copy, whatever it is. Google doesn't tell us everything about how they rank pages, and some of it is based on are you a proven reputable site? Are you an enormous website with lots of content like CNN? Some of it is that stuff that not all of us can have where we're working or what we're doing, right? But other parts of it are having those good search terms in your title, using subheadings throughout your copy, and using those using highly relevant keywords in those subheadings as well. Just Google crawls all of that, and that will help bump your page up. There's also a coding component too. If you're the person who's designing the back end of the website, or you can work with that person, or you can learn how to do some basic HTML coding, there are meta tags that you can put into the head of an HTML document in the back end of a web page that will increase your searchability as well. Most importantly, the headline, the top of the copy, and then also the file name that you upload. That's something that lots of folks don't understand immediately. Every time you upload a picture or a file with text on it, that's going to become a web page to the internet. Make sure that it's not called, make sure you don't just spit it right out from your iPhone and it's called, IMG_0127. That's not helpful for anyone who's looking for the actual content that's in your photograph. And those file names are searchable, right? Okay. Oh, this is a really good question. Should we upload our real photo in the profile on Twitter and Instagram in terms of safety? So if you look at my Twitter account, I don't have my real photo there, right? But it's not because of safety. It's because it's like a caricature drawing of myself that I really like, and I use it on Facebook too. I would think about, certainly think through all of those things. I have never at any point recommended to one of my students that they not use their real photograph. That doesn't mean something couldn't happen, right? There are no guarantees in this world. Death and taxes, right? But I've never advised a student not to do that. I have advised students not to, and others at Merrill College have advised students not to put their physical address on the internet, on a resume page, on a social media platform, or anything like that. That just seems like a bad idea, and is a safety measure that you can certainly take.
I think, Alex, it looks like Karen wanted to clarify the question she had asked earlier, just in terms of, do you recommend that professional service firms have Instagram accounts?
I recommend that everyone has an Instagram account. It's right now, it is an enormously fast growing social media network. If there is any chance that you have a client that is going to be, if you are working with clients, customers, audience, everyone's working for some kind of an audience. I think right now, this is my opinion. There are numbers that back me up, but this is my opinion. Right now, if you're trying to sell something to anyone or get information to anyone, I think Instagram is the best place to be, regardless of your industry.
Well, thank you so much. It looks like we're just a little over 4 o'clock here. So thank you to Alex for joining us this afternoon. As I mentioned before, we will be sending an email out with the recording, and we'll include a link to Alex's slides in that as well. So thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. I also put the link in the chat to the full schedule of Alumni Career Week events, if you are interested in checking that out, to see if there's anything else that you might want to take a look at this week. So thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good afternoon.